So I guess we've already talked about this in some capacity, but um regarding the issue of bridging the communications gap between academia and the public, uh how do you feel about modifying the language and style of academic writing to make it more accessible and easily understandable to others? Is this something that like academia should take a step towards?
Yeah, I do think so. Both in U.S. and China, maybe Russia, where I used to work, I think there's a great necessity to do so. To achieve that, one can adjust the style of writing, word choice, toning down some of the more obscure part of theorizing or too dense of argumentation, right? So that the material may be more accessible to the general public. But also for social science, there's another type of writing, not necessarily for the general public, but for the policymaker, um, particularly in social sciences, beyond academia, another possible group of people or institutions that may be the right audience for our writing is a different type of policymakers or those institutions that are involved in these policy making process. And for that, of course, other than the style and the style of argumentation, I think another possible way to adjust our writing is to get to the policy proposal or policy implication side more quickly in those type of writing. Just to get to your point. Point here means what can be done, what should be done. Um, so that's another adjustment for that particular type of audience. For that type of writing. I think that those adjustments needs to be taken in the broader sort of academic system, how academics works are being evaluated within the academic system. If for most people, if those type of work are not recognized one way or another, are not recognized in the academic system, then the incentive is still to uh, mostly talk to your own peer, relatively small circle of peers, right? So uh, to achieve that, the academic system overall needs to accommodate these different type of writing, different type of works targeting different audience. I think that both in these in U.S. and China, there are some discussion and different type of experiments to do so. To do so. I don't know where the general direction is, but I think that for both country at least, there are quite clear recognition to introduce that kind of reform within the academic system.
Um, okay, so I think you mentioned that Russian academic writing has kind of like a like more like journalistic style to it. Do you think that
For
there's
certain field, yes.
for certain fields, but do you think that there's like direction to be taken from like do you think well first do you think that like that kind of style helps communicate more with a non like academic audience, and do you think there's direction to be taken from those
I think
styles?
for certain fields that could be one way. Um, uh, in Russian concept, there is a general concept of if you translate literally translated into English, would be internationalist. But this internationalist is not referring to a group of people with this internationalist world vision, but as a field of people who work on international issues. That's the specific context. And for some of my Russian colleagues, they would like to promote that kind of writing as part of this professional training for that particular group. It's called internationalists. And I think for those that kind of particular group of people, the particular profession, that kind of writing is actually uh, 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 is a good way to structure their professional writing. And the general, it does target a non-specialists but still quite well-educated group of people who are interested in international affairs. It may even include some uh, um, what we might call policymakers. So for that kind of purpose and targeted audience, I think what some of the Russian institutions, Russian magazines, and some of my Russian colleagues are doing, I think is at least one feasible one feasible way. Um, it's not completely absent from actually the English academia. I think the English for the American counterparts, many of them are doing it in a slightly different way. It's not that they uh, created this internationalists and then attach a certain writing style for them. What happened more often in the US is, particularly for the past few years, is university-based academics actually build on their academic research and then rewrite or rebrand some of them academic writing, but in a specifically accessible style and also in certain outlets. I see that more often in the US. There are a few, in my field, there are a few outlets. It's called a Minerva, I think it's called a Minerva Project. And in Washington Post, there used to be a similar projects where mostly political science, international relations, university-based scholars, they would, given some of the hot topics in the world, they would bring together some of the academic, more dense, dense academic paper, but rewrite or reorganize the part of it and rewrite in rebrand this analysis, shorter, more accessible, with a little bit of journalist style, but with direct, solid reference to academic research. So what they implies or what they advocate in these pieces, they always give you a link, like what this one is drawn from which piece in the footnote or later, uh, or in the super what do you call it, super text in text links. Right? So I think that's actually a very good way, another type of way to bridge the gap you mentioned. Right? So there are two slightly different way to handle that the kind of bridge, and each one is I think is pointing us to a slightly but equally maybe equally effective direction.
Oh. So I guess our last question is pretty
Mhm.
broad. And so do you have like any other advice related to writing or
Hmm. If the suggestion or advice is mostly to college students, I know that group relatively well. Is other than the things I just said, is also realize that writing is a lifelong project or enterprise. There's no stop. Like it's not like you approach a certain period in your students or maybe other professional life, and then you say, "Oh, I'm a good write now." It just no more learning, no more practice, no more you know uh, probably constant realize this is a lifelong project. You always learn, practice, modify, and improve. Um, is one piece of advice I might give to the young students in college. And then another one I already mentioned is in college time, it's actually I would highly recommend to try different writings uh, for different outlets and different potential targeted audience, and um, and you might stick to one or two of them later, but early on try and learn from different type of different outlets. I would highly recommend it.
thank you so much for speaking with us. It was really awesome to hear your insight about like
Mm.
the top topics discussed. Um, thanks.
Thank you.
Um,
Very nice to talk to you. Good luck.